Welcome to the Winning Wellness Podcast, where we explore health, wellness, performance, and try to improve not only your quantity of life, but your quality of life. I'm your host, Mitch Schwartzman. My guest today is Bill Maeda. He is a Hawaii-based personal trainer, owns his own gym, coaches clients, and has also, over the last handful of years, begun posting more and more information online. So he does really interesting exercise variations. He talks to you about the philosophy and the perspective behind it. And then he also shares today, we do get into his coaching, his personal training, but he also shares a lot of tips from fatherhood, battling and overcoming cancer. And then we get more into the exercise focused conversation about 40 minutes in.
As much as possible, children and people should play. They should, yeah. I mean, that seems to be something that's just going away more and more. So it's good that they play.
Yeah, we prioritize it. We're my wife's a school teacher, so I lean on her. I say, like, I have my college degrees and I work in the college setting, so whatever that is. But my wife, she is on the front line of what's going on with these little ones. And so I'm thinking, like, I know a thing or two about nutrition and health, and I can emphasize their physical development and what we're putting on their plates and things like that. And the mind in the classroom, and so she's an expert for that. But the funny thing is, she's like, as long as they're not failing stuff in school, I don't want to emphasize. I don't want to be doing homework. so
I'm right there.
I got so jazzed up to create these perfect little humans that are doing all this stuff, and she's like, no, just let them play for the next 10 years, and when we get into middle school, we'll start doing more homework and stuff. But yeah.
And for their cognitive development, that is actually the best from what I know, in my opinion, just the way I'm inclined. That is probably you guys are putting them ahead anyway by letting them play and just connect to all of this. That's because if you think the way we evolved, or any animal, complex mammal evolves, you don't just put them as soon after they come out, you just sit them down and get them all on books and computer. They should be climbing and jumping and running and connecting all those neurons, and once they get all that laid out, then yeah, like you guys said, later on we can start bringing in the books and all the stuff.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page there. We sure love watching them move, and it's exciting. My son Mac wants to be Batman, so he's all about wrestling and taekwondo and all this other stuff, and of course I'm living vicariously through him. And just loving every minute of it. So,
right on.
Yeah, it's good. Okay. It's a good time over in my house. We're having a lot of fun.
Those are good years. Yeah.
Yeah.
When they're young like that. They're all good years. It depends. Basically, it's what you put into them is what's going to come back at you. Do that right, then it's good all the way till the end. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Right on. It's a good time. Enjoy it.
I'm a little fearful of the teenage years, but
we were told of that too. But I used to say I'd rather have I was just parroting what I heard people I thought were wise, what they would say. I'd say, my job is not to be my kid's friend, and if I have to choose between them respecting me and them liking me, well then fucking I'm going to go with respect. But over the years, that was when they first came out, my first one, and then as I got to kind of actually be a parent, I learned that both of those things were not really the approach to take. Neither being their best friend, or just being the enabler of everything, nor the hardcore drill instructor. I learned that earning my children's trust. That was what, and I have a 20-year-old now, and my other ones are going to be 11. But my wife taught me this because she also is a teacher. She's been a child development since I met her. And she said that, no, you know, best way to avoid all that teenage, that things, all the stuff you see our friends running into and our family members with their teenagers, is you notice a lot of those people, they take their kids on really fantastic vacations, and they go to the movies, they go to restaurants, they take these cool trips. But she said, well, and their kids treat them like shit. They have no respect for them. Nothing's good enough, no matter how nice the restaurant, no matter how fancy the car, the clothes. They're all spoiled, and they're just, and they don't respect their parents. And she says, and she said, I always used to wonder, what is the difference? Why? It seemed like if you just give them stuff and have a lot of fun with them, because everyone says you should spend time with your kids. And so the assumption is that time should be recreation and good times. But my wife, she taught me that the way that you really show that your children, that you're there for them and that you earn their trust as well as their respect, is when you struggle with them. And she said that, because I was like the good time dad. It was like, even to the point like, oh, let's not do chores. I used to tell them, sweetie, why don't you and I, we can mop the floors later. Let's take the kids out. She says, that we are all gonna mop the floors together. And you know, and you see my kids rolling their eyes, but also when it came time for them, when they're struggling with homework, that's when they're going through their struggles. And she taught me when my daughter was young. She said, I remember my daughter was a little baby in diapers, and she was coloring something. Like, you know, they hold things like this. And it just seemed like she was coloring. And then next thing I see, just out of the corner of my eyes, I didn't realize that she stopped. And then she just throws the crayon, goes, she grabs the paper and goes, no. I'm like, whoa, what just happened here? And it turns out when I uncrumpled her paper, she's trying to color an elephant, you know, a big bubbly elephant. And there was a lot of crayon that was going outside the lines. And I noticed that the crayon's getting harder as she's getting more frustrated that she can't get it in the lines. And back in my day, when I was like, that is exactly the same thing I used to do when I was that age. I'd get frustrated, and I told my wife, I have a term, it's called breaking my toys. I would literally break my toys, and I'd get so frustrated, and then I'd get punished. You know, I grew up in the 70s, so you do that kind of stuff, you beat your ass. I'm not going to find out what's wrong with this little, you know. But I said, no, I'm not doing that, because I remember how that made me feel, and it turned me into a really messed up kid. So I sat down and I said, hey, sweetie pie, come here, let's open this up. Do you want to color the elephant? No. I'm like, well, hold on. Anyway, long story short, I told her, you see how the elephant has a big bubble? Can you draw a line that goes on the inside of the bubble? And she goes, yeah, right. And I was, okay, now next to that line on the inside of the line, can you draw another line? Yeah, okay. And can you draw another line? Okay, now so she started to outline. So from the inside, she started outlining the elephant with layers, and another layer of crayon, another layer. So pretty much on the inside, there was just a little space in the middle. I said, now, ready? Here's the fun part. Go like this on the white part. And she went, and you know, it's all this. But even if she's going all sketchy, it never went outside the lines, because we called it trace work. We're just going to trace the inside. And she was so happy from that. And but you see, if we don't catch those things when they're young, when they first start expressing frustration, we just go, oh, they're just having a bad day, and we just put them somewhere else. That's a huge mistake, man. But if you sit down and even if you don't have the time, you make the time and go, screw dinner, let that shit burn, and you sit down and those little, when they first start learning about failure, like that's their first experience with failure, they can either learn, I'm a failure, or, oh, every time this happens, at least right now, mommy and daddy, they can show me, not do it for me, but show me there's a way out. And if every time they know that some shit happens, there's a way out, and you do that with it, then later on, they know how to kind of, but that trust in you to help them, and then the trust in themselves that they develop after they've, okay, well, this is the way mom and dad thinks of this. Let's break this problem down, break it down. Okay, yeah, I don't like my older daughter, she is at Wharton now, and she just a few months ago, she was accepted by Goldman Sachs for an internship in 2025 in their investment banking division or something. And that was her dream. And, even back, I remember she was maybe in sixth grade or fifth grade, she asked me what an Ivy League college is. And I kind of gave her my description of what Ivy League was. And I was a terrible student. I mean, I never even, I didn't even make it through college. And I have no problem telling people that now, but I was very ashamed, back in the day. But my daughter's completely the opposite of me. And she says that work we did with her when she was little, she says, before I could remember remembering, you guys always taught me how to, whenever shit went wrong, don't freak out. Just kind of look at what is it you want to do. And then she just kind of reverse engineer backwards. How can this be? And she uses that, just, I guess, now. And she's gone through some. To get into that school, to get into Wharton, she just about killed herself in high school. I mean, and she opened a store at the mall at the same time. And her store made six figures in 6 weeks. It was only for the summer. But she was in the news and all kinds of shit. Yeah. And she says, she tells us is that this when I was little and I was struggling and I would get frustrated, and instead of, yelling at me for like getting, a lot of parents, they punish their kids for getting angry, or, like I was told I was a bad kid. Like Billy, they called me Bad Billy. I had an older brother and a younger sister. Right? Back in that day, it's like if you just seem to you get easily frustrated. Plus, I had ADHD. Nobody really understood back then, at least not in Hawaii. But yeah, trust, man. If you get that trust, if your kids trust you, then they'll be your friend and respect you all within that, under that umbrella.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's trust, and the trust is earned by you struggling with them. You not just playing video games with them. That's very bonding, and it would seem like I'm a good parent. I'm playing video games with my son or my daughter or whatever. I'm having a tea party with them. That's all good parent stuff to do. But sometimes nobody talks about is struggling with them. On the things that they either have to do, like school, or the things they care about, but they're struggling with. And and I've also learned, even if I'm not into what my daughters are doing, especially, I'm a guy, and I tried to get my daughters into guns and shooting and jujitsu, and so far it's a no-go. But like they're into volleyball and basketball, and I was never really that. I don't dislike them, but I was never big on those, But I'm learning. I'm into basketball now, and I'm into volleyball now. And if my daughter's having trouble, serving the ball, spiking the ball, well, we're both going to learn how to serve and spike volleyballs. I'm just terrible with a volleyball, but yeah, if they see you struggle, and they also see you struggle with what you're struggling with and what you care about as well. That's also a good thing, right? To see you working hard and to getting frustrated with see you kind of worrying about money and the business, and it's all. After I told my daughter when she was young, I don't know, say fifth grade, what I felt, and then my wife was right there, and she kind of told her, about Ivy League schools and the big ones, Harvard and Stanford, and she looked at me, and like all kids, she said, "Oh, okay, then I want to go to an Ivy League school." Just very matter of factly, sort of like I used to tell my parents, "Oh, well, I want to be a policeman." Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But and so, and to this day, my daughter and my wife, I remember this differently. They said I looked right at her with kind of like an incredulous look on my face, and I said, "Do you think you have what it takes to get into an Ivy League college?" And they said that's how. I said, "No, I would never do that to a young child." I might have said, "Sweetie, do you think you have what it takes to get into Ivy?" They said, "Well, regardless of how you act, you shouldn't say that to." I said, "Well, I'm kind of very literal sometimes, and I might go go outside the realm of appropriate. But I didn't mean it like as a challenge, or I just said, sweetie, do you really think you have what it takes based on what we? And she said, looked at me, she said, yeah. And she wasn't a great student at the time. You know, she was good. She wasn't bad, but she didn't seem like an outlier in any way academically. And
Sure.
you know, she wasn't, yeah. But but we always supported them, you know, we never we always explained to them why, if we felt, you know, why we would never yell at her, and it was certainly never physically, you know. I know there's some times in certain situations in certain families where that I'm not going to judge other people, you know, because there's more than one way to skin a cat. But yeah, with our daughters, you know, and I'm one of those guys that when it comes to girls, me personally, and ladies, maybe this is kind of outdated, but as soon as we had a turtle one time that I was given to us, and I thought it was a male, and the way I would like tell it it's time to eat is I took a little chopstick and I'd go tack 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 on its shell, which was kind of a jarring thing to do because I thought it was a male. And then the head would just come jumping out after a while, like he was conditioned. But my wife said, that is such a meat. I said, no, it's like a dinner bell. See, ding, ding, ding. She's all, that is, can you imagine? I said, I thought it was funny, right? Because I was younger, I was just a dick. Later on, we found out it was a female. And as soon as I found out it was a female, all of the dinner bell and all the, you know, because I used to treat it like I'd treat a son, you know, just like, come on, get your ass up. As soon as I found it was a female, I renamed it Lola. I treated it super gently. And it was like, yeah, so that's why for me and little girls and females, as soon as I find out, oh, I have 2 daughters. I thought I was gonna have sons, right? But
yeah.
But no, I love having. You have what? Boy and a girl?
My oldest is a girl, and then she's got a little brother. Yeah. So we got one of each.
There you go.
Yeah.
Super. You planning on any more?
We're shutting it down. We've got a couple of healthy, awesome kids, and we're just gonna kind of call it there. So probably one of the harder things I've done in my life is to not keep growing and trying to add to the family. I mean, it's so rewarding, and you know, it's such a good thing. But we just want to keep these 2 and have good relationships with them.
You know, I grew up in a family of 3, and my mom, she was such a good mother. She was really, really, very, really good. But now that I look back on it, and now that I'm a parent of just 2, I realize my mom was just killing herself. That having 3 is 2, you know, 1 + 1, that's 2. But when you add that 3, it's like 4 or 5. It goes up a lot after 2 in terms of just the demands on. It was so hard on her. And you know, I used to really kind of fight with my mom a lot when I was younger. But gosh, as I had my first child, then my second child, my relationship with my mom rapidly improved because number one, I became very appreciative of everything she and my dad did and how hard it was. And then me being the stupid ass kid that I was, just, you know, arguing with her. And I wasn't a criminal, you know, I wasn't running around with gangs, but I was, you know, playing hooky from school, and the police were bringing me and my brother home, and you know, my dad would have to pick us up from the police station. And we never got really arrested, but they would detain us because we were juveniles and just doing stupid stuff. We were never robbing and stealing or fighting, but I really made it hard on my mom. But yeah, when you have your own kids, man, you certainly appreciate what your parents did for you, assuming they were good parents, you know. And yeah, my parents kind of like seeing that. They laugh at me now. They're like, "Yeah, see, yeah, huh?" I go, yeah, I know. Sorry, but yeah, live and learn, you know.
Yeah, big time. But to gosh, you just dropped so many good little things in there. And I don't know if I said it already, but congrats to your oldest daughter as well. Sounds like she's just being a rock star.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
so,
one more thing.
yeah,
I'm sorry. Thank you very much
please.
for that. I know, yes, I'm an Asian parent. My wife is Chinese, but we are very atypical. There I go. I'm in trouble with people here. Atypical Asian parents. We never pushed her for this. We never once told her, you're going to be a doctor, you're going to be a lawyer, you're going to be in some kind of investment banker, you're going to engineer, none of that. We never, neither of our daughters. She made an abrupt about face since she was in school she called herself a science geek or a science nerd, I forget. And it wasn't until 2020, and that would be her junior year in high school. So all of the years she was in school, she thought, I'm going to either be a scientist or a doctor. And so she kind of put most of her effort into science and more kind of mathematics, the things that you need to be a scientist or a doctor. She was really into that. And then during the lockdown here in Hawaii in 2020, we stayed at I train a guy who's very wealthy. It's an absurdly nice and just huge house um, on the beach. And he left for a month and he asked me to house sit. And he said, just move your whole family, your dogs, just my place is mi casa is your casa. And this place, I mean, there was a dock out there. It was like a small resort. And my older one, her name is Barry. She said, Daddy, what does Uncle Dustin do? I said, he's in private equity and a little bit of that venture capital stuff. And that's what I said. That's something called private equity and that venture capital stuff I didn't know what that hell that was at the time either. So I do what I do. I mean, and she was fascinated I guess she started researching what private equity and then she asked me to talk with him, and she did. And then so and that was right before the pandemic and the lockdown. So when we got locked down, she started selling cupcakes online through Instagram. And then that business really blew out to the point where when things opened up again, she opened that store at Ala Moana Shopping Center. And that's the big mall in the state of Hawaii. Ala Moana Shopping Center is the big time. If you open a store there, and at that time she approached them, they said, you want to open a pop-up during the summer? And how old are you? She says, I'm going to be 17 soon. They're like, so they basically told her, no, we don't rent, units to kids, and we don't do pop-ups. But she said, well, what else are you guys going to do? Because everything was shut down still. And so they said, she talked them into it. And they said, okay, well, we're going to this is our terms. And they said, the rent was not cheap at that mall, even considering a lot of stores had closed at the time. It was the pandemic time, lockdown. And they also took a big percentage of her sales. But like I said, she made 6 figures in 6 weeks she was there. And when they saw their piece of that, they said, okay, so we have a year lease available. I know you're still in school, but they were seriously wanting her to stay. They were blown away by what she did. She sold so many cupcakes. She was up for 3 days straight baking sometimes. She is tough as a Navy SEAL. And I used to make her watch all these, like this Netflix series called Surviving the Cut. It was about special forces selection.
Oh
I
yeah.
made her, when she was a little too young to watch that, I made her sit there and watch that with me. You know that, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's one of the best documentaries on the selection process of getting into special forces. And she watched Force Recon and every single one, Navy SEALs, all of Delta Force. And later on, she says, Dad, remember when you made me watch all those crazy shows that you made me watch? I said, yeah, sorry. So, actually, that was kind of helpful because every time things got rough, I remember that guy who had got tear gas and he had to carry the 200-pound dummy up the hill, and they're tear gassing him at the same time, and he refused to quit. I'm like, you remember that? She's like, yeah. I'm like, wow, okay. So, but yeah, that's another thing. I guess I got off a little on a tangent, but we never pushed her. We never defined or told her, this is what we expect from you. You're going to make us proud. You're going to take care of us when we're old. None of that. We just said, you guys, both of you and both my daughters, you're going to have to discover what you do. We're going to equip you the best as we can. That's why the trust. Another thing is because people will say, would you worry about your daughter now that as she was getting into her teenage years in high school? Oh, boys are going to start doing this, and oh, you're going to, and people leave me in comments. Some of the comments on my videos is like, oh, I'd hate to be the guy that breaks his daughter's heart. And I say, you know what? Don't worry about me. I'm not part of that equation, man. I mean, I know I get the joke, but in real life, though, my thing is if I have to worry about who my daughter is going out with, then at some point before that point, I came up short, because by the time my daughters are old enough to just choose their friends, let alone their boyfriends and their girlfriends and their husbands or their their partners in life, if I have to worry, then some point during that process, I did not. I'll go as far as saying I failed them, or I just didn't see there was a hole in my awareness as a parent. So I firmly believe with my second one as well, because that should be in place when they're choosing their friends on the playground, right? If you already not liking the friends that they're bringing home in second, third, fourth grade, it's pretty fair to say, unless something changes during those years, that the boyfriends and the girlfriends and the partners they bring home later, that's not going to get much better. So it starts, a lot of parents think that, oh, when they turn into teenagers, all of a sudden the tables just turn. No, there's a lot of warning signs. There's a ton there's a lot of indicators leading up to those tipping points.
And you know what I was going to say is I was going to say you were talking about not promoting or pushing her to be some prestigious academic and professional, but I have a feeling that you set a good example of being an excellent personal trainer and fitness guide for other people. So what you were doing, you were probably being excellent at it. And you could be the best or worst grocery bag, checkout person, cashier. But if you're doing it really, really well and your kids see you being kick butt at being a cashier, then whatever they do, they're probably going to want to be kick butt at it too. So I bet you're doing a great job and showing them how to be great in that. And then as far as relationships go, I don't know your relationship history, but I bet if you're showing them, hey, here's healthy relationships, if they see that and they get to model it, I bet that's going to solve a lot of your boyfriend, your future son-in-law problems as well.
Okay, it would be normal for me to say, thank you, Mitch. I appreciate that. Yes, that is true. But here's where this conversation can take a really interesting turn. I I I was, up until somewhat recently, a complete fucking mess. I had a serious cannabis addiction through my well before my daughter was born, and through all the years of me raising her. And I love my wife deeply. We've been together for over 30 years, but since the day my wife met me, she's known, and when I say she's known, no blame at all. In fact, I give her all the credit in the world forever just staying with me. But yeah, I didn't realize. Well, deep down inside, we all know when we have a problem, but I didn't want to recognize it until somewhat recently, man. Yeah, my daughter was around the time, I guess, around the pandemic, 2020, as recently as that. That's when I really had to kind of confront myself. Number one, it's the opposite. I tried to be as good a parent as I could be at the time, but I was struggling with a lot with depression, and I didn't realize it at the time. I also didn't realize the severity of the ADHD. I didn't even think of me having it, and now I've realized I'm learning a lot about kind of me. But this is somewhat recently, and it was my daughter, number one, performing the way she was performing in high school. Was she really? And then she medaled in judo, wrestling. She was a wrestler in high school. I mean, I tried wrestling in high school. I just pussied out. It was too much for me. My daughter just crushed it. And she started as a cheerleader of all things. She started cheerleading. Then she quickly said, "Oh, cheerleading. Why am I on the side cheering for all these different? I want to be the one being cheered for." But it took her a couple of years of cheerleading before, but because she said she was socially awkward, so that seemed like a good on ramp into a team. But then she realized I can be the one being cheered for. And then that's when and by the way, anyone that's into cheerleading, no dig on it is also a sport. Well, I mean, it's definitely, I don't want to shit talk cheerleading because she was just there in the beginning phases when she could, it was still kind of just a thing. But then she said, no, I don't want to be the one cheering. I want to be the one being cheered for. And yeah, but so my daughter, that Barry, and then when she opened that store, and I saw her do more in one summer and confront and overcome more physical and mental hardship than I felt like I had gone through in my entire adult life. That 17-year-old girl, I saw her stand up to more fear and uncertainty and chaos and crises and managing employees and just customers. Yeah, she's the one. A lot of what I do on Instagram now, on social media, that if you knew the guy I really was before this, I was terrified. The first year and a half I started my social media from April of 2020, the first year and a half, I couldn't utter a word. If you go back to those old YouTube videos, I posted every single day, every day, a minimum of a 10-minute video, but I never spoke a word because I was so insecure and yeah. So no, I did not set a good example. I was oftentimes, I realize now, I didn't smoke like, constant, but it doesn't matter. I also realized when you have I guess I'm ADHD and maybe my biochemistry, what didn't seem like a lot of weed had the effect of a lot of weed on me. But because I'm thinking, well, I know tons of people that smoke way more than I do. I don't have a problem, but no, I could stay high for 6 to 8 hours where most normal people would be clear as a bell after two. I have some weird biochemistry that way. So no, I was a mess, man. And I did not, and my daughter has only told me recently, she says, "Daddy, I'm really proud of you." The other day she told me that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that kind of that meant a lot to me that she said that. Because I knew she loved me and so did my wife, but um, yeah, I knew that I was putting they both kind of knew I was up. You can feel, right? When you live with someone, you love someone, and even your dog, you can tell when something's wrong with your dog, and they can't even talk. Um, so yeah, no, man. It's yeah. Thank you again for, but I like in most cases that's usually how it works, right? You have a parent that's a real high achiever, and they're setting a good example, and if there's anybody that set a good example for my daughter and myself, as well as my younger daughter Teddy, it's my wife. My wife is she's the bricks and the mortar. And she is, yeah, my wife, Leslie. She's the one that, yeah, and yeah, because she was patient with me. She's always supported me. I have tried to quit. I tried to quit, weed, literally, I think hundreds of times. at least a couple hundred with deep, earnest intention, but I kept getting sucked back in. But I've learned things, like learning more about my ADHD and how that plays into addiction, or being prone to addiction, and not being so hard on myself. Because now I realize, like, these what I called loser traits that I would say, like forgetting things all the time and having to organize myself like a kid, like I'm a child, like having to put things in cubbies and hang things up before you take your shoes off, and then put your keys over here, put your hat over here, put your your belly pack, put that like a baby. And I always just felt like I was a stupid baby. People say, like, when I'd go to like the gym or I'd come here, people were like, "Wow, Bill, look at you, man, look at your muscles are everything on Instagram." And the whole time I'm having to manage myself like I'm in kindergarten. And I used to feel like such a loser I'm like, God, I just hate myself. But now I realize, hey, there's a lot of people that are like, and it's what, misery does love company, man. I mean, I see all the famous people that have to live this way too, and they have worse than I do. And I watch videos of kind of famous people. I never even, unless you have ADHD, but and I see all these really prominent, successful people saying, "Yeah, man, I can't remember which is my right and my left hand," and all this stuff. And I'm like, so just that, it's been very helpful. But social media has been very helpful. I know it's supposed to be, it has some negative implications on society and on young people and people in general. But at the same time, man, for me, it has connected me more to other. I was a recluse. Like I said, I couldn't even talk for a year and a half of being, and my channels were, my platforms were growing. I quickly got over 1 million followers on TikTok, and still I just didn't feel like I was good enough to talk. I just petrified to talk to the camera. So yeah, it's been a process, man. It's like, yeah, no, there's people really knew, they see all this stuff that I post of spinning the kettlebell, and I got the stern face on. That face is just so I'm concentrating. That's my ADHD Bill concentration face. I'm not angry. I know people say, "God, you look so mean when you train." I'm like, I'm just really trying to focus, man. I guess that's what I look like when I focus. But yeah, but no, I'm a very normal, in fact, super fallible, making mistakes all the time, forgetting things. It's more a comedy, man. If you were to see my life, and for real, yeah, I'm not one of those super cool together guys, and I'm okay saying that now, because I think a lot of times social media, especially, everybody's trying to put on, apparently people are trying to put on this veneer or some kind of an image that might not be totally real or authentic, and I have nothing to hide. I'm freaking too old to do that now. If I was younger, I can see younger guys, man. They got a lot of time. And, when you're younger, yeah. But the cool thing about being my age is you can kind of let go, man. It's like, I'm 55, man. All right, so this is where I'm at. I can see a guy in 30 or 40 like, man, I want to post some shit on the internet, and 15 years from now, it's going to come back and or it might affect my future. I can see the pressure that younger people are under to not just say, yeah, I can't remember my own ass and but at the same time, I feel like one of the ways I maybe can help people is like, hey, I've been alive a while. I've been doing what I do for a while. I guess I'm somewhat good at it, but there's a lot of things I'm not good at, and I'm willing to acknowledge that. And I'm working hard on trying to be good at the areas that I'm not right now. And that's kind of more of the message I want to send now is it's okay to be not good. And people say, God, I want to be like you. I said, no, you don't. You don't want to be like me. If you knew, like, what, just so you can spin a kettlebell and make a cool Instagram video? No, man. Because in order to have what I have, you have to be willing to take everything that I've taken as well as not taken in life. And most cases, I think if you knew the big picture on anybody you think you want to be, you would probably be happy that you are who you are. I really believe that, man. I always look at like people like, wow, that it must be nice being that guy. Who hasn't thought that a few hundred times? But I think if we knew the big picture on anybody else we thought we wanted to be or have what they have, we saw the big picture. We say, you know what, I'm cool being just plain old me. Because yeah, it's. But anyway.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. Correcting me a little bit and highlighting the ladies, and talking about how great they are. But I think that your genuineness and just being yourself, I think that that's part that and making these really cool exercise videos that go up. I think that that's why people are kind of loving you and paying attention to what you've got going on, because you're not faking it, and you're providing you're providing your real life experience with us, and you're also providing some super entertaining exercise edutainment.
Yeah, and now before it was just I guess I use some of the, especially in the older times, on some of those, and I still do. I still like to, if I can, get out and just what I post to Instagram. It's never designed to get views. Some of the videos, of course, do better than others, but I tell people, like, people say, like, so what, your workouts, how do you, everything is so different. You say that what you're posting is your workout for that day, but there is absolutely no rhyme or reason. There's no systematic anything. In fact, if you could define the most all over the place scattered workout possible, it'd be hard to beat what you're doing. And I said, yes, but here's the system behind what I'm doing. Every day I wake up with a list of mental and physical issues. I have some days I'm nervous, some days I'm sad, some days I'm a little pissy. Some days my left wrist is just, I can't extend it any farther than this. My left ankle is swollen, my right knee, I can barely lift my knee up to put my underwear on properly without having to lean on. So when I get out there in the afternoon or wherever I'm going to go out, here's how I select what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to find an exercise that's going to, without doing further damage, it's going to confront all of those issues, as well as my disinclination to do something. So if my right knee is hurting, and I know lunges can be challenging to the knee in that way, and also my workout is solving a puzzle. It's taking all of those little parts, the mental and the physical things that are not right or a little bit broken that day, and I just put them in a box. And I look in that box, and I'm going to figure out through some exercise how I'm going to solve this puzzle of things that are in that box. Because I try not to avoid, like, if my ankle is stiff, I'm not going to be an idiot. If it's truly injured, I'm gonna really kind of lay off of it. But if it's just like more of like, that's a mental thing, man. You're just not wanting to do the lunge thing because your balance is feeling a little shitty too, and you want to lift heavy and show off today. No, you're gonna spin a light kettlebell around your head and drop it off to the side, and you're gonna do your balance today. You can do your heavy meathead stuff tomorrow. But on the more messed up I am in the head, the more I'm going to choose something that's going to confront that. That's why it's different every day. Some days it's real chill. Some days it's just like yesterday. I just took these ropes from a company called Winding Ropes. Have you seen all that rope flow stuff?
I've seen some of that flow stuff. It looks phenomenal.
Oh, I've always been jealous. I haven't. It's kind of a new thing for me to see them. I see them everywhere now on all this Instagram and TikTok, everything. And the company was nice enough to send me some, and I think that's going to be going into my future. That's going to be something. That is for, especially for an older, or not just I'm just gonna speak for older people, that the way it integrates your leg, it's like a martial art. Like Tai Chi is cool, but I like things that are a little bit more at this point martial, or like it feels like this rope in a way feels like a weapon. You know, it's like Kali sticks or something.
I was gonna say
And
the videos I've seen, it reminds me of when Bruce Lee grabs the nunchucks and he's showing
exactly like nunchucks,
he's
right?
getting ready to bash somebody in, you know.
But it has the integrated, the body integration and the flow patterns of Tai Chi. But you have some, and you know, for me, the ADH, I gotta have something to focus on. And that rope, and they're beautiful ropes, by the way. Yeah, that's going to be my thing. I just took it out for the first time yesterday. Yesterday was, I realized it was a 2000 video that I posted to Instagram. I didn't even realize that until, 2000. But it was that rope. And, I watched these things that these guys do effortlessly. I tried, like, I found a YouTube video and they said, this is the basic da-da-da. You know, for people that worry about getting Alzheimer's and dementia, especially at my age and older, and they say, you know, learning complex physical movement patterns is one of the best ways to curtail or at least minimize that. Those rope flow patterns are definitely, for me, that was one of for the time I spent half an hour. I've never gone less far. I've never made less progress in half an hour I even re-uploaded the video and edited it for slow motion, and I still could not do it. And my right shoulder, because you have to get your shoulder behind you, and my I had surgery on this shoulder, and it's just a little bit, ugh. But these ropes are going to teach me how to get that shoulder functioning again, you know. But yeah, that rope flow is up. If you haven't tried it, it is something.
Yeah,
That's definitely going to be. We're going to see a lot of that.
I'm glad to hear that. It's definitely captivating to watching it. Me personally watching it, I just kind of thought like that seems like a fun way to hang out in my garage for a little while. Is just to like go in there and tool around with that. So 2 questions off of that.
Yes.
Well, a comment is that many of the greatest athletes are intuitive athletes. So when you talk about the intuitive training, balancing the hodgepodge of nicks and dings in the body and your head space for that day, that just reminds me of other athletes in the past who you know, training becomes so complex before it gets simple again. Like you probably learned a few things along the way and you said, well, here's the program I'm training right now. And then at some point, maybe you start becoming the intuitive athlete that you are now. But when did you wear the intuitive hat? How long has that been going on?
Okay. I used to be the kettlebell obsessed. So it's funny. Okay. I got colon cancer. It was a stage 3 colon cancer I was diagnosed in 2012, and I had my ascending colon removed, and I went through 6 months of chemotherapy. But prior to that time, my training was the complete opposite of what you see me doing on social media right now. I was deadlift, power clean, barbell squat, pull up. Those were the only things I did in a regular gym with barbells or dumbbells, and kettlebell clean and jerk and kettlebell snatch. So kettlebell sport, and the two kettlebell sport movements I focused on were the snatch and the clean and jerk, which I guess are the two primary ones. And that's all I did. When I learned the kettlebell back in 2000, what was that, 8? I started 2008 in kettlebell sport. I did that. I didn't even do barbell, or I barely did any barbell or dumbbell training. I literally And that's kind of what was being pushed. At least that's the way I was perceiving it, is that you don't need anything. The kettlebell is everything. It's your cardio, it's your strength, it's your explosive, it's your mobility. Everything is in the kettlebell. And, so I was just an obsessed kettlebell, and all I did day after day were hundreds and hundreds of reps. And this room that I'm in, I would brutalize myself. Nobody ever saw the battles that I went through in this room day after day. And I'd always wonder, why am I doing this? Who gives a shit? But at the same time, because I guess not realizing that I was using that to deal with depression, because that's how hard I had to beat myself down to get that endorphin thing, and to just physically exhaust my mind and my body, so I wouldn't have all that stuff, that anxiety and the depression. I would just physically try to just tranquilize myself, or so. But and then the years following my recovery from cancer, that's where I kind of almost, it was weird. I stopped training. I didn't realize it, but I guess getting the cancer, I'd always felt like I was very arrogant when I was younger. I mean, if you just go back to, I posted a video recently of me from 2010 where I think I dislocated my shoulder doing a Turkish get up. It's kind of a recent video. You can tell it's an old video. And I also posted that because after I did that, I just pulled my arm back into the socket, got up, made like nothing happened. And I just walked up to the camera like Joe fucking cool and turned it off and made like, and then later on, oh, but the attitude in that guy, the strut, even Leslie, my wife, she says, "The hell is it? What are you walking like that for?" I'm like, all the videos I took back then, I'd always walk like, there's always this like silverback gorilla thing, and I'm like, I was just, but that was what so. And I thought I was Mr. Indestructible. I thought I was like, and just, here's the thing. I'm just going to digress for a moment. I've never taken steroids. People always ask me that. So the one thing I do on any podcast or anytime I can speak to other people on this, I like people to know I've never, ever, ever taken steroids. Growth hormone, PEDs, you name any of them, I've never, ever taken them. I haven't even held packages of these things. And it's important for people to know that because because I never had, because I naturally had, I was born with steroids just, in me. And I was proud of that. And with that, I kind of felt like I was like an X-Man or a superhero. I was above the law. And then when I got this cancer and I lost basically a huge section of my intestine, and then I got nuked with the chemo, and that just leveled me, man. That just, it was weird. Physically, I looked the same, but it just, man, I was like, I could barely lie on my back and lift my legs off the ground when I was done with that. I was so weak. And so my training, and then also it affected my recovery. Like I could go on a run that I would consider a warm up, and I would be sore for days. Even now, to this day, my workouts have to be short. Even to this day, of course, now because I'm older, but even back then when I was still in my 40s, after I had the cancer, we can say there's a psychological component as well, but I truly believe, because mentally I was still like, fuck, I don't care about cancer. I don't care about chemo. I'm going to just run right through that. I don't care. But despite all of my will and my screwed attitude, my body it said otherwise. It says, I just always felt sore, and I couldn't recover the way I used to. So by the time, and so that was about, gosh, that was a long time, all the way up until say 2020 when we locked out. The year, easily 2 years before, so from 2018 on, all I've ever been is a trainer. Personal training was what I did pretty much out of high school. I tried, like I said, I never graduated from college. I tried a couple years in college. All I did was smoke weed and hang out with dudes and just go hiking up and just, I was very just ADD, man, just running around and forget it. And so after that, but I was training people ever since high school. It was the only thing I could really do somewhat well. So by the time we're getting up to the pandemic, just a couple years before the pandemic, I'm already thinking of, man, I suck. My clients train more than I do. I could teach some techniques and what to do, all the stuff that you see me doing on Instagram. I knew that years ago. I either taught it to myself or I learned from other people, and then I came up with my own variations of it. But I had pretty much stopped my own physical training. So by the time we got into 2020 and we're all locked up at home, it's kind of funny. If you look at those initial videos in 2020 that I posted, you can see a difference in how I looked back then, because that first video that I posted to YouTube that got this whole thing started was me going out on my front doorstep. There's no cars on the street. The whole world was just eerily quiet in my neighborhood. I remember that day. And I put an old iPad mini and I used the selfie camera to film this just so I could see that I was in the frame. And my thing was to do as many push-ups as I could in 10 minutes. And I didn't even do that many. I mean, that's how out of shape I was. That's how fundamental it started. And then another video was me hanging from these handles that are in my doorway that used to be my daughter's swing. We would hang a swing in our doorway and I'd push her on it. And I just put so the workouts I first started posting were literally not even intended for other people. It was just like, because I know that if I put a camera on myself, it's funny. I always tell people this. People say, hey, how do you get motivated to work out? I said, if you're not motivated to work out, but there's nothing wrong with you, it's not raining or snowing or thunder and lightning, you just don't want to work out. Here's a little trick. Always works for me. Videotape yourself. If you don't feel like doing push-ups or you don't want to do crunches, you don't want to do your curls, videotape yourself. And do it like I did. So you can see yourself in the selfie camera. And all of a sudden you're going to bring an energy. If you're like, if you're kind of like a little bit of, everyone's got a little bit of narcissist in them. It's a good thing to have.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
As soon as you start seeing yourself on your video and you're like, then you start flexing. You're like, oh yeah, all right. And then you do that. That is one of the best. You don't ever have to post it. Delete it the moment you. But I also suggest you watch it, because well before our smartphones and everything, I was videotaping my workouts so I could see my form, or so I could record for myself, just for my own satisfaction, that I'm going to do 50 reps of clean and jerk with 24 kilo bells. And if I put this camera on, I'm going to refuse to stop way more than if nobody gives a shit. But if I know I can immortalize this workout, if I can go 50 reps and I have it on video, I push way harder, because nobody else was in this room except me. And I did that over and over and over again. And so that's a little, for anyone listening, if they're having trouble getting started in fitness, choose anything you want to do. Doesn't matter how lame or stupid it is, and videotape yourself doing it. Yeah. So, and so then going back to so that first day I did push-ups. So next day, obviously I was sore. So I forget what the next thing I did was. I did some lunge kind of a thing. So it became like, okay, what's not sore today? Because I was thinking, comments started coming in saying from Brazil and all over the world, just a few. But I noticed my subscriber count on YouTube started to go up. And this sounds so dumb. I didn't know you could make money off of YouTube. I know that sounds so absurd. I had no idea that you could actually make money like so when people subscribed, I didn't care. That didn't mean a thing to me. The comments meant more. So and then my subscriber and people start saying, "Shit, your fucking thing's blowing up." And I said, so I really was so naive. Anyway, it became a thing of, in a way, it was sort of like what I told you, how like solving a puzzle. Well, one workout would make me sore in one way. So there's two ways of solving the puzzle. If my chest and arms are sore from doing a lot of push-ups on day one, I'm not going to try and solve that by, like, oh, well, what can I do to confront that? No, I'm going to train my legs. I'm going to do lunges. So that's what I did. They say lunges are a little bit sore. Oh, I can do a pull-up. And I think literally I did some pull-up thing for my third one. And then the fourth day I said, well, everything's a little weightlifting sore. Maybe I can do some jump rope. So I did jump rope. And that's how I started the rotation of the whole thing. Mitch, I have a feeling I kind of digressed from your original question. Can you remind me what that was one more time?
Well, before I do that, can I say thank you for talking about that beginning part, because
sure,
that's where. So I deal with like these youth athletes at the university, and
okay.
they're 18 to 23, 24 years old. They know they're supposed to be training for their sport, but it's when I go out and like social gatherings, or I'm talking to people who are thinking about personal training or whatever it is, and so like, I just don't have the time for it. I'm like, you don't understand. If you did 10 minutes a day, you don't understand the impact that can have. So when you talk about reconditioning yourself and having decreased recuperation abilities, and you talk about doing 5 or 10 minute workouts, like that is like my number one thing that I don't know how to say it any more simple to people, is that like 10 minutes is so much better than 0 minutes. And that's what I have so many people that that's their excuse. I'm like, a year from now, you could be so different. Just 10 minutes a day.
Let's talk about that. I'm so glad you brought that up, because there's a lot of people, they know that they should be exercising. Basically, how do you know if you should be exercising? Well, if you exist in a body, be it a kangaroo, human, it could be a praying mantis, you should be exercising. And exercise is just activity, right? It's just moving through this gravitational world, this planet that has this force that pulls down on us. How you define your exercise is always going to be up to the individual. But what I tell people is, like, I used to try to lure people, or not lure, but try to, let's call it, to trick people into starting by saying, hey, start with 1 minute, just 1 minute. And of course they're thinking, well, you're just patronizing me, man. Everyone knows 1 minute of anything's not going to do shit. I said, okay, I'm not going to patronize you. Let's go with 10 minutes, 10 minutes of something. And they go, I said, you have 10 minutes to do any given thing, right? Yeah, I do. But nobody does that. You notice that every time you tell people, just do 10 minutes, man. What can that hurt? Nobody does it. Nobody does it. What I found, people, the barrier to entry is not the time it takes. It's not how small the interval of exercise is in duration, in time duration. The real barrier to entry is they feel like they don't know where to start. Like, well, I haven't done a push-up since high school. My back hurts sitting in this chair, so just the thought of doing a squat is kind of like, doesn't even make sense. I'm pretty sure I'd dislocate my shoulder if I even tried to hang on a bar, let alone do a pull-up. So my thing is, this is what I'm really big on. I don't care if it's 1 minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Choose something that you already know how to do. You've done it in the past. Let's use a push-up. And you're going to practice push-ups for what you're not, no pressure, whatever. Like, you're just going to practice one set of push-ups, no time limit. This is what you're going to do. You're going to go, and first you want to see, can I just hold the plank, the top position of a push-up, and just hold that until you feel like you don't want to hold it anymore. Don't hold it till you're shaking, until it's unpleasant. Just hold it till something in your body says, I don't want to do this anymore, and indulge it. Just say, fine, that's cool. I tell people, treat yourself the way you would treat a young child, a baby, that you're just wanting to show it like, hey, I want to show you let's go down to the lake. I want to show you the water. You're not going to take the baby and just throw it in the lake. You're going to walk it down, and as soon as it gets on those little pebbles, and it's, ooh, pebbles, ooh, that feels good. Okay, you just feel the pebbles. Just feel those pebbles. And if it doesn't like the pebbles anymore, we're not going to walk farther onto the pebbles. We're going to go back to the grass. We're going to enjoy the grass. And then maybe later we can walk farther on the pebbles and maybe even pick a few pebbles up. Feel the pebbles. And then later on we get down on the water and you look at the water. You're not forced to go in the water. Just look at it. Check it out. Yeah. So that's the way I want people that I try to teach new clients. And a lot of my content is coincidentally going to focus on this topic over the next month because I'm taking a recovery month for myself. I announced it a week ago. And so here's how you do the push-ups. Okay, say you can hold the plank. That was okay. I can hold the plank. Nothing broke. I'm still here. So now you're going to go back in your push-up position, and you're going to only go down to the level where you can easily get down to, but more importantly, easily get back up. Easily get down to. It should feel so easy. If I tell my clients, or I will go with my clients, I tell them if what you're doing, immediately your brain says, this is stupid, and this isn't doing shit, you're doing it perfectly. You want as many of this is absurd. You want as many of those absurd, useless repetitions as you can possibly get, and you're not allowed to get tired. As soon as it could be a wrist thing, it could be my shoulder, it could be my heart starting to beat, I'm getting a little sweat here. You gotta, pardon the expression, you gotta pussy out as soon as that happens. And I tell them, and it's good to be, I tell a lot of the guys, it's good to be a pussy, okay? We're gonna go completely against everything you were taught by all your PE coaches, your buddies, every instructor you might have had on this. We're going to take all of that and literally dump it upside down. You can only work in the range of motion that feels absurdly easy. You're not allowed to get tired on that set. And as soon as you want to get up and do something else, you are encouraged to do that. And people say, well, literally, that sounds like you're patronizing me still. I say, no. If you think of it, if you think of what you just did, what I just described to you, and if you actually adhere to all those rules, is there any doubt in your mind that you can repeat that same thing tomorrow? Of course not. I said, that's the important part. You need to find a workout that you can do today, but you are positive you can do a similar, it doesn't have to be push-ups again. Tomorrow we're going to do squats, but the same thing. First you're just going to stand up. You just say, okay, cool. And then you're just going to bend your knees and push your butt back. And like literally just bend your knees, push it, stand back up. It's not, you're just putting a bend in your knees. And you're going to do that a bunch of times. And and then if you want to go deeper, because here's the thing, that you can lure yourself into exercise by doing this. If the first set you do is so ridiculously, almost frustratingly easy, then your natural, even people that feel like they don't have a lot of will or pride, their natural human inclination is going to be, okay, because I always tell them, hey, if you don't like what you did, if what you did was so dissatisfying to you, and if you are super unsatisfied with what you did, once again, you did it perfectly, you can always do it again. Just take a break, drink some water, and then give yourself another set. But the discipline you're going to have to practice is that set's going to have to be just as easy, if not easier, than your first set. And if that leaves you so dissatisfied that you need to do one more set, then go back and do another one. And here's another thing. In real life, when people only do this super absurdly easy push-up, and say they do just 3 sets, they're surprised by the third set, how that fatigue, they're like, oh shit. even more important is the next day, they're like, you know what? I would have never on earth guessed that I feel like in a good way, because I can still move my arms and I'm not getting this weird clicking sound in my shoulder, but I feel like I really affected my muscles. And once they feel like, oh, wow, that was super easy, that didn't psychologically, I didn't have to like dig deep, I didn't have to suck anything up. I was cruising. The whole time I'm thinking, this is stupid. Yet today I'm feeling like, dude, I did something. Yet I'm not, so I can still hold a phone to my head, and I can do that with my squats. Because going back to trust, people, in order for them to see, this goes, I think, for everything, but we're just going to talk about weightlifting or not weightlifting, exercise programs. There's no system of exercise that will be effective for anybody if they don't trust themselves to show up for it. And that's what we're trying to do here. We are trying to establish a pattern of behavior, or I guess the word that's quite popular is consistency, and it's a good word. It's not what you do or the degree of what you do or how you look when you're doing it. It's how it's, I don't even like to use the word consistency, because that just sounds like willpower repackaged. The important principle is trusting yourself to show up, trusting yourself to conduct yourself during the workout in a way that would make a young child want to return. It's literally, if it's been a long time, or in my case, we're coming back from overuse injuries, like I have overuse injuries. I have no acute injuries, but I am beat up and worn out. And so I'm going to treat my child. I've been brutalizing myself for 4 years straight on my social media platforms. And now I'm going to treat myself. I'm going to do exactly what I'm talking to you about. I'm only doing, or if I don't want to do these super little tiny push-ups, I'm going to put over 100 something pounds of rubber bands on a little strap around my waist. And I'm going to do ridiculously easy full range of motion push-ups, but where I literally feel like I weigh about 12 pounds. And so I'm still getting all the joint mobility. I'm still getting all the scapular movement. I'm still nourishing the joints, but I'm not overloading any of these muscles and tendons that have been beaten to hell for 4 years without being able to recover. But the main thing is, that if people would just understand that I think the barrier to entry is people thinking, I can't do a squat, I can't do a lunge, I can't do a push-up, I can't do a curl. I tell people, who says a curl has to look like this? People say, well, my uncle died and all he left me with was 20-pound dumbbells and they're super heavy. I said, well, here's what. Instead of trying to do no one wants to do that. Grab one of those dumbbells by its head and just go like this. And if this starts getting, just start here, right down here. Just kind of just bring it up. Easy to get into, easy to get out of. Because life is hard enough. Life is more than happy to just beat us down. So asking people to impose more onto themselves physically by doing hard workouts, especially if it's been a long time, or they've had a history of failing, of quitting. Oftentimes the reason why they quit is because just way too much was dumped on them. And then there was all these requirements. You have to look like this guy on the video, ass to the grass squats, tuck your tailbone, all this stuff that they have to do. With me, I'm into my clients. Everybody has a different body. So I call it I think it's a term, natural movement. Everyone's going to squat a little different. And if somebody, when they start doing a push-up, their hips start to sag, I'm not going to jump on them about that. Nothing's going to break if their hips sag a little bit. if if they feel like these push-ups feel good and their butt is all down here and one shoulder's a little bit winged out more than the other, I'm not going to jump on them about that. Because I have found if you let people just kind of do whatever their body's naturally inclined to do, and you don't jump on them about it, like most trainers do, because we're also trying to show these clients how smart we are and how technical we are. And I've learned in this time, no, let people move the way they're naturally inclined to, and let them just feel that, and don't micromanage every little form deviation that you were taught to see by some certification or some course you took. Just let people move and enjoy and just feel their natural inclination to move. And then, because it's also as a trainer, is how I gain trust in them, or how I gain their trust. Because I just say, bro, am I doing this wrong? Does it feel wrong to you? Does it hurt? Not really. I said, then I would say that's just the way you should be doing it right now. And then later on, after they're like, oh, this guy's cool, man. This guy works with me. All right. I have a feeling I'm doing something wrong. And I tell them, I said, here's what you're doing right now, that feels good for you. That is good for you. I can show you variations later on, but why? If it's not broke, let's not fix it right now. And just do that. Keep on going. I also show them, if I see you doing anything that I deem is actually going to be injurious or is going to start to establish a bad habit, then I will give you suggestions. But I'm not here to micromanage you. I'm here to teach you how to trust yourself to do this for yourself. That's my job as a trainer. Not to boss you around and kick your ass and put you through some random shit that you have no idea what this is supposed to do for you, but somehow your friend told you to trust me and that I'm good. No, that's not my job. Is to teach you how to trust yourself. And it's not by beating yourself up and seeing how fit you can get in 90 days. It's just to get you to show up for 90 days. And when you're at the end of that 90 days, you're like, wow, that was not too bad. Yet I am shocked that I made 90 days straight. That to me is infinitely more valuable. I said, I'd rather you just do week workouts, but every day you're putting another notch on your rifle stock, and every day you're like, I did, man, that wasn't a kill. It doesn't have to be. Because I swear, I have people that they will do squats. Even guys that do squats right now. I have some of my strong guys. I say, okay, let's just right here. Let's just, why are we, just shut up. Just do this. And they're just like, what is this? I said, just chill, just, and then they tell me, you know what, man? I would have never guessed that. I said, you know why you're so sore from that? Because here's what you don't realize. When you put that 300, 400-pound barbell on here, you can be totally, the linkage right at the top, right here, that can be zero, gone. But you'll never know, because what do? You unwrap and you just go, zoom, like a gallows. You just go right past a huge section in your kinetic chain, and you drop onto the fat muscle bellies below that. And then you take that stretch reflex out of your muscles. You can't really hold that weight or stick it at the bottom. You kind of like, oh. And so at the top and the bottom, there's a huge deficiency there. But because we're so busy trying to lift heavy and exhibit strength rather than build it, those gaps can also obviously turn into either overuse or acute injuries, especially if we assume that because we can lift heavy, we're strong from top to bottom, from every inch and degree in the range of motion, that we actually have balanced distribution of force vectors or whatever. And oftentimes people are very, like, same guys, bench press. Okay, right here, let's do these push-ups right here. Or I'll put bands on them, or I'll have them, I'll put one of those weight belts that, you hang weights on to do dips on. You can also take the chain off and put that on free motion cable machine, and they can do assisted push-ups. If you just put some weights on, and it lifts them, and they're doing all the way down, all the way up push-ups. And at first I said, this is stupid. Why am I doing this? I'll just keep going and keep going. Okay, let's see if this is so easy. Let's see how tough you are. Do 100 of them. And they start getting up in 50, 60, 70 reps. They're like, oh, shit, this is weird, man, because I feel very light because it's taking 100 pounds off of me, but this is starting to get hard. I said, well, you want to check this out. When you feel don't get exhausted. You about ready to come out? Yeah, I'm getting bored. I'm all, okay, fine. Get out. Now, full push-ups. Go all the way down, all the way up. And they go, oh, shit. They are shocked. They're doing all these easy push-ups, something they'd never think of doing. And then they just thought that I can go right into that. They couldn't wait to do regular push-ups. And then they're like, boom. It's like someone said, I feel like you just shot me like I feel like, what the hell? They're like, it was so, because all of these little things that we dive past when we do heavy weights and we bounce out of, there's all of these little connections, all these little intricate that we miss. That's why when I lift really slow. And there are always going to be guys that exhibit more, that can lift more weight than me on any lift that I do. Always. In fact, I'm almost proud of that fact that there's going to be many that can. But my thing is, I need to, when I do a curl, I don't stop it here. I go to arm bar level lockout. And I also try to lengthen my shoulder down too. I want the longest, every bit of slack in this chain has to be. Then from there, I'm going to pull. And when I pull, I'm not going to let my elbow push back and shorten the lever going out in front of my body. I'm actually going to push the inside of my elbow forward so that I have a very long lever going out in front. And that can make 20 pounds feel and affect me like 40 pounds. And yeah, so that's, I've got a little bit. So that's for the more advanced people that wonder, well, that's how that kind of training can actually help more advanced lifters, is to actually entertain, like, let's see how many of these, if I can do 20 good push-ups, let's see if I can do 40 easy to get into, easy to get out, just only the easy range of motion. Because on a real push-up, there's a point where we have to kind of exert to get out. But if we actually examine the top of the push, there's a point where I can do a lot of these. Do as many of those as you can, and then add a few full push-ups when that starts to feel, let's call it boring, because that's what everyone tells me. This is getting boring, man. I said, okay. To me, boring means I'm getting tired, but I don't want to say so, or I'm not identifying this feeling as actual fatigue. I said, okay, you getting bored? They say, yeah. Full push-ups, go for it. And then they're like, oh shit. I'm like, yeah. Isn't that cool, man? So that's how, like, when next time you're on vacation, there's no weight room, and you don't want to do push-ups all day, do them up here. Or for that matter, do them down at the bottom. Pulse, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's really fun for the advanced guys. Oh, this is cool, man. All right. Okay, now you're getting tired a little bit. All right, let's full all the way up. Oh, shit. Yeah. And I didn't create that. That's been around forever. But oftentimes it's not really talked about much. It's not sold much. Everyone wants to sell the program. They want to sell the magic system, or, people want, Bill, teach me how to spin a kettlebell and drop it off. I want to see the infinity lunge. I'm like, need that.
And you talk about not inventing that. But that's one of the things I love about just getting like my daily dose of your content, is that I'm seeing movements that I'm probably not going to think of doing. And then I see it and I'm like, yeah, I do want to try that. I do want to play around with that and see what that's like. So the creativity that comes out, it's just a blast. It's fun. It's fun to see that, and to take on the challenge. And you talk about not lifting more than a lot of other people. Well, a lot of us aren't lifting as much as you are. So it's all fun.
If I happen to be lifting something that might be challenging to others, then that's just something I might be particularly strong at. And I always assume that the people that might not be able to do what I'm doing there's at least 50 different things they're going to smoke me on. And that's always good. I love it. I love people when they send me a video of them doing something that I posted, but with more weight, more reps, better form. I love that. That feeds me. I love that. Sometimes it's sent to me like as a dig. Like you can kind of tell. I was like, look what I can do. You think your little 70-pound kettlebell push-up? Check this out. And I'm just like, yeah,
Yeah.
for you, man. Right on. I love that.
I'd be curious, could you talk to us for a second about the strategy, but also the actual piece of equipment? What are you biting on for some of these like bite deadlifts? Is it a towel or what?
To me, I am always the comments and the views that those videos get, to me, indicate that there's a little bit of a significant misunderstanding about what I feel is how the body works. I look at recently I posted a video of me moving a 75-pound barbell. I just budged it off the floor by, what I call the head lift. Number one, that it's a towel. It's a blue surgical towel. My dad is an ophthalmologist, and he brings home these blue surgical towels. It's nothing special. I just use it because it's a surgical towel. It's designed not to produce a lot of lint. And whenever you're putting things in your mouth and biting them, you don't want lint and fibers coming off of it. Like a few people said, "Hey, can I use a microfiber cloth?" I those leave a lot of fuzz. And but going back to this, a comment was, "Why do you do this?" There's any video you see that I'm lifting something with my face, there's always gonna be like, "So what? Or like they'll say, "This is just for the gram." Or I said, "If you think so, then I'm not here to argue." But one day, this guy said, "Why do you do this?" And my answer, I was in a rush. I was at a restaurant, and then just a comical answer. I said, "Because this turns my head into a fist." And the amount of likes that comment got, and people commented on that comment, they're like, I never thought, but literally that is why I train. It's always it's always just been fascinating to me how cerebral a culture we are. We want all these different drugs. We want Adderall, modafinil, smart drugs, nootropics, right? Everything for the head. We want to take drugs, alcohol. We're always trying to change. We're obsessed with this. Yet the pedestal or the turret that this is mounted on, and some of the, to me, I look at my body as like a forearm, and the head is the fist. And people say you can do that much safer with a neck harness. I would argue completely the opposite. I have nothing against neck harnesses, and I own several, and there are some times when I use them. But to me, training my neck with a harness in a way is like taping a barbell to my wrist to do curls. The neuromuscular integration of the jaw with the neck and the spine and the traps, and the jaw is such a significant neurological advantage to generating total body strength. I believe this is still in place. There's a rule in professional powerlifting that the participants are not allowed to actually use any bracing, any type of a mouthpiece to bite on. I'm not sure if that still is a rule, but but back a while ago, there was a time where biting any object during your lift was considered, in a way, it gave you too much of an advantage. To me, if it's not a drug or fucking let people bite on shit. I mean, you want to see records get broken? Let these guys bite down and train biting things at the same time. I believe some of the top strength athletes do actually wear mouth guards to protect their teeth because they just autonomically bite so hard just to do their. But any strength training, you want to go for a max curl, a deadlift, a bench press, like life and death kind of lifts, like 1 RM maxes. And if you're biting something that is well suited to you, you will always do better. And in my opinion, be braced against injury better if you integrated your jaw into that. So me, I could never put a head harness on, and like I can routinely pick up a 135-pound barbell with a surgical towel and biting with my teeth. I can lift that all the way off the ground. If you put that same amount of weight on a head harness, couldn't budge it. I don't have that neurological linkage. And if you look at the jaw and the way it's actually integrated with the neck, to me, it is much more dangerous to lift with a harness. The times where I've actually kind of lost my neck position and put my neck at risk was trying to lift heavy with a harness. So at the same time, I still like to use a harness because if I can properly, without the benefit of my jaw, now lift this given weight, I know that if I brace with my jaw, I can now rep that weight. So it's good to have the harness because it forces you to have that a different kind of posture in your neck and in your body in order to bring the load off the floor. But yeah, so
how about any other jaw training? Have you seen like the rubber jaw chew? It's like a dog. It's like a chew toy for humans.
Yeah, the Jazzercise. Is that what you're talking about?
There's a
that's
couple.
where I start. Yeah, that was the one I first started with years ago. I think shortly after that company, was it 2016? That I was probably one of their first customers. I would like to say I was. As soon as that thing hit the internet, I ordered the set, and I like that product. I really do. People shit talk. I don't know why. But I have always felt that was a good in fact, I've tried other products. I still think the Jazzercise, I have no affiliation with them at all. Yeah. But I like that. The way there's some mouthpieces I've tried, they're just hard. There's no give. When I bite something, I want to feel it, and as I sink my teeth into it, it then starts to kind of, so I can really get a lock on that thing. Some of these mouthpieces are just way too rigid. Like there's it's sort of like, if like the grip on a bike, if there's a little squeeze, if you can just kind of like squeeze into the foam a little, you can really hold on. But if it's just like hard plastic, it's like, okay, yeah, there's a grip on this thing, but it's just as hard as if there was metal.
Yeah.
The jaw likes to have a lead up. It's like being able to get a running jump or running start before you jump rather than just jumping. And some of these mouth guards are just like biting on this glass bottle. It's just like, it's just bam. And all of that force just kind of recoils right back in here. I don't like those. So the Jazzercise is it's a pretty good product, and I haven't found anything out there that's better right now for that.
Yeah, I've played around with the front piece and then the one that has the molar based units that lets you sit in the side, and there's something to it that just it feels natural, and it's interesting to get those muscles fired up. Have you seen or heard that theory about the wisdom teeth and why we take our wisdom teeth out?
I don't think so.
Well, basically it goes like there's no other animals that are in early like maturation or adulthood and then all of a sudden have too many teeth in their mouth. We're the only ones. And then they go down in the catacombs in like France, And when there was like the plague, the Black Plague, and they would bring all the bodies and just shove them down in the tunnels, and just to
Right.
leave all that mess down there. So somebody went down there and they're looking at all the skulls and the jaws of people before the agricultural revolution and
Okay.
afterwards. And
All
so
right.
when we started eating porridge and bread and soft foods, our
Mm.
our jaws stopped developing as much, and then those wisdom teeth come in, and we have issues. So
Oh.
it was the food technology that screwed up the way that our jaws are supposed to be. So modern people actually have slightly smaller jaws than we're supposed to,
Right.
and something's a product like the Jazzerciser may actually, if you eat normal food and then you throw that in, that might help out, or just give your kids harder foods and meats to chew on. So
Yeah. And that's another thing is, people literally, understandably, they kind of have, they only feel like, well, your jaw is to eat. No, if you look at other primate, especially those chimpanzees that hunt other monkeys, or they hunt small like gazelles, you will see those chimpanzees after they kill that animal carry it up into a tree with its in their teeth, in their jaw. There are lots of cases where you will see people who have gotten their truck got washed out in the flood. And I saw this one time where a guy was holding onto a tree and he had a young child, and they're lowering a basket to him, and he somehow had to reach to get the basket, but he literally took the child's shirt, bit that shirt, grabbed the rope, and then, but he's kind of holding the kid. The jaw and the neck are capable of much more, much more. And sorry, we also are designed to use our all animals that have a jaw and teeth. That is, we would think of it as a secondary weapon. I consider the jaw a primary weapon because it's the only weapon that a young child and a woman can use against a much stronger, larger, and more violent male attacker that would significantly damage him and psychologically have the most impact. There's no need of the balls, eye gouge, whatever people. No, if you bite a divot of flesh out of somebody or you bite a finger off of that person, that's going to have a significant effect on their physicality as well as their psychology. And that's something that, to me, the jaw is the great equalizer for children and women and even and men. And if you actually, I've heard interviews of men who have been in just horrible hand-to-hand combat in Fallujah and Afghanistan, and a lot of them will tell you when it came down to it, they're biting the fingers. Like there's a knife, a hand with a knife. They are biting the knuckles off that hand to get that knife away from their face. It is combat. Combat is not UFC. Combat is you know everything. You bite, and these guys say in real, just all out life or death, they don't even remember biting, but they just see fingers all over the place and there's meat in their teeth and it's brutal. But the jaw is, it is so much more than what we give it credit for. And so is the neck. Also, in terms of taking damage, not being able to take punches, statistically, most of us, thankfully, will never get struck by another person hard enough that our neck training would get us through the day. But at the same time, car accidents are extremely common. And, just a good rear ender, if your neck is not having a little integrity in your neck, when it can make a huge amount of difference. I've been rear ended before, and my neck compared to the other people, I've had a few car accidents. And I like to think that the years I've been training my neck has helped me get through a lot better than other people involved. So I don't want to leave everybody on this biting fingers on toes off of it. You know, I don't want to end it up like that. But main thing that if there's one takeaway is if people are, I know there's a lot of people that every day they spend a little part of their daily energy feeling shitty and bad and guilty that they're not exercising and they're not doing this, not just for themselves, but guilt comes from, man, I know if I got to do this for my family, man. That's the guilt that a lot of people carry. It's not just, man, it's like, if I don't do something, no, I might not be here. At the very least, I won't be able to play with my kids properly. But I literally might not be here unless I start doing something to take care of my A1C and all this other blah, blah, blah. But I just want people to know the barrier to entry, man, is train yourself like you're your own child or like a child. Super friendly, super easy. And yeah, everything has to be easy, so easy that you're positive you can show up the next day. And then that day, super easy, ridiculously easy, but you know you can show up again tomorrow. Because with that, you get the trust. You get that trust in yourself to show up. And that'll probably transcend to other things that you've been trying to do as well. So, because I use that on a lot of things outside of exercise that I have physical and mental barriers about, you know, like, yeah. So this works, man.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mitch. Right on, brother.
Hey guys, thought you might want to take a closer look at the Jazzerciser, so I'm kind of opening up the packaging there and just taking a few bites on the left. If you're interested in getting one, use discount code Mitch Schwartzman for 15% off. And another product that we discussed today was the Flow Ropes. So head over to windingrope.com and use discount code Mitch11 for 11% off of your next order. I already ordered mine and can't wait to get started on them. A story that I want to share, just as Bill was running short on time, I didn't want to interrupt him. He was in an awesome groove of just sharing. He was talking about doing all these easy things, keeping things successful. While he was talking about that, I was kind of patting myself on the back because 6 days ago, you know, sometimes me and my wife will do daddy-daughter dates or father-son dates, or, you know, she takes one of the kids and I take the other kid and we go have alone time with them. So I knew that Matilda loves this restaurant near us called Circle 7. It's like an American Eats kind of place. It's good. So I knew she was going to want to go there. So I printed out a piece of paper. At the top of the paper, I had a picture of the Circle 7 restaurant. At the bottom, I gave her a choice of like a stairs, track, bike, or swim. So we were going to go do an activity first before we went to the restaurant. And she chose the track. And so we go to the track and we do one lap. And she's been to the track before and she's run the track before. But we just do one lap and call it, say, okay, that's it. Let's go to dinner. And she's like, oh, well, that was kind of short. Like, should we do more? No, let's just go to dinner. Like, we went to the track. We ran on the track. We ran hard on the track. And then we were getting out of there. Like, what more could I really want from her? I didn't want to run till she was exhausted, till she was sweaty. I just wanted her to do one good lap, and that's what she did. Probably the fastest lap she's ever run in her life. I'm pretty confident to say that. So I'm pretty happy that my strategy aligned with some of the wisdom that Bill was sharing with us. Hey, just one more time, a big thank you to today's guest, Bill Maeda. If you liked what he had to say, check him out on Instagram at Bill Maeda, and his content on YouTube is under Fit Pro Hawaii. Thank you so much for listening to our Winning Wellness podcast. If you have any questions or suggestions for podcast guests or topics, you can submit those through YouTube comments. You can message me on Instagram. My handle is Mitch Schwartzman, or you can email me at coachmitchschwartzman@gmail.com.